Violet Brooke stepped gingerly onto the sprawling emerald expanse of the elite golf course, her thrift store dress an obvious contrast to the dazzling attire worn by the event's affluent attendees. The high-class clientele, draped in sleek designer outfits and sporting the latest golf gear, cast sidelong glances her way, noting her unadorned persona, no makeup, simple canvas tote, and faded flats that whispered of miles walked. The clinking of champagne glasses and the faint hum of conversation filled the air, mingling with the crisp scent of freshly cut grass as a light breeze tousled her hair. Violet observed everything quietly, her eyes tracing the pristine lines of the fairways and the elegant arc of the green flag fluttering in the breeze, starkly alone amidst the swirling luxury. Her solitude didn't go unnoticed. Several guests whispered behind manicured hands, eyebrows raised in disdain. "She's probably lost," one woman muttered, a sneer curling her expertly painted lips. Another man chuckled, nudging his companion. "Probably thinks she's on a picnic," he mockingly added, triggering ripples of amusement through the surrounding crowd. As Violet found herself standing slightly too close to the green, a revered spot reserved for players and officials, a sharp, critical eye landed on her from across the way. It belonged to Alexander Crane, famed for both his golf prowess and his cutting remarks. His interest piqued, his expression nonchalant yet carrying an undercurrent of disapproval as he sized up Violet, from her unassuming shoes to her worn-out bag. To him, she was an anomaly, an unwelcome interruption in the seamless pageantry of the high-profile tournament. Violet felt the weight of their judgment in every furtive glance, each hushed comment becoming a layer of the invisible barrier between her and the gilded world she dared step into. The sun climbed higher over the verdant paradise of the golf course as players adjusted their visors and patrons mingled beneath sprawling white canopies. The air, vibrant with competitive anticipation, was abruptly sliced by the commanding voice of Alexander Crane. He approached Violet, an unmistakable air of entitlement underscoring his movements as he neared the green, where she inadvertently found herself lingering. "Excuse me, miss," Crane declared loudly, his voice carrying over the respectful quiet typically surrounding the game. "Are you aware this area is reserved for players and officials only?" His eyes narrowed slightly, scrutinizing her unfashionable attire and drab shoes. Around them, conversations trickled to a halt as curious eyes diverted towards the unfolding scene. Violet, caught in the spotlight of judgment, managed a composed response. "I'm here to appreciate the game, not cause a disturbance," she offered softly, meeting Crane's gaze with quiet resolve. Her response was measured and polite, yet it did little to quell the ripple of derision spreading through the nearby ranks. Crane, undeterred by her quiet poise, chuckled derisively. "A game like this deserves appreciation from its proper audience," he retorted, his words laced with patronizing undertones. "Maybe you'd find the views more relatable back with the general spectators." His insinuation hung heavily in the air. Laughter rippled, bolstered by smirks and nods from his entourage and others basking in the warmth of their social superiority. The scene quickly escalated, with several onlookers gleefully raising their phones to capture Violet's moment of embarrassment. She stood, outwardly calm yet keenly aware of the digital documentation rooting her to the spot. "You see, this isn't just a pastime, it's a way of life. And not all are suited for such refined tastes," Crane continued, sounding very much the self-appointed guardian of golf's exclusive sanctum. The bite of his words wasn't lost on Violet. She understood the stakes at play. Her presence was an uninvited mosaic disrupting the otherwise homogeneous tapestry of privilege all around her. As security personnel began to approach, Violet took a deep breath, steeling herself against the tide of mockery. The measured steps of the officials, hushed yet purposeful, signaled their intent to relocate her away from the prized green. She shifted her weight uneasily, the emotional sting of the public spectacle sweeping over her in waves. Violet felt a searing heat creep up her neck, a visceral sign of her quiet determination mixing with the raw sting of embarrassment, which she wore like an invisible scarlet letter. Still, she maintained her composure, allowing herself only the briefest gaze toward the sea of onlookers now turning back to their chatter, the incident becoming another morsel of gossip in their day marked by opulence. Once beyond the immediate reach of her detractors, Violet found herself ensconced within the designated spectator perches. Here, caught amongst the polite clamor of common fans, she took a moment to breathe, though her heart continued to beat furiously against her ribcage with recollections of embarrassing scrutiny. The confident rhythm of the tournament proceedings soon resumed, conversations flowing over her earlier plight as if nothing at all were amiss, yet the echo of indifferent laughter lingered, like a wound unhealed, against Violet's spirit. Despite the lull, elements played out behind the scenes. That very pause afforded her a glimpse of change, though unnoticed by the casual onlooker and, doubtlessly, those who had formerly mocked her. Yet, at that moment, the social hierarchy of the tournament rendered her invisible, her initial public dismissal transitioning into newfound privacy amongst a crowd engrossed in each stroke of the game. The lull in activity around her now wrapping her in a cloak that shielded her from further notice, at least for the moment, allowed Violet's thoughts to wander. Quietly, she mused over the serendipity and ironies threading through her day, her creative instincts lingering along the manicured greens that now lay several elevated yards hence, beyond visual reach. Though her confidence had been shaken, her love for the sport and its artful landscapes remained steadfast. Each carefully sculpted hedge twisting through the course reminded her of the works she had once fashioned into fields of play transformed by innovation. Time inched forward, stillness imbuing Violet with a latent determination. She granted herself a moment to gather those fragile components of hope, the fibers of resilience binding them whole once more, reveling in private victories all her own. Here, amidst the buzz of drones and drone cameras, those present remained ignorant of the inevitable shift unraveling quietly, just beyond the reach of their awareness. Violet's wondering transformed into an unwilling replay of events, her face heating once more against her will. Yet somewhere behind whispers and glances, the current thread of today's experience began to fray at its seams, soon to mutate into an unexpected turn of fortune. Crane took a moment to speak with a reporter, his words smoothed with self-justification. He elaborated on maintaining purity and procedure in such elite settings and dismissed the incident with Violet as a minor excursion from the norm. It was imperative, in his view, to maintain the event's aura, and he, of course, was just the person to preserve its dignity. Meanwhile, within the bustling confines of the general spectators, Violet remained seated, her mind a tilted kaleidoscope of embarrassment and determination. She replayed the morning's events, each interaction scrubbing its texture over her thoughts like sandpaper against smooth varnish. Shamed, yet she couldn't fully internalize the belief that her presence had overstepped the unspoken boundaries of socially imposed tiers. Though the ebb and flow of activity masked her personal turmoil, an undercurrent of unrest simmered beneath Violet's composed exterior. She absorbed the joyful energy of the sports enthusiasts around her, people who shared in their common admiration for the game without the pretensions of those housed within luxury tents. It was a quiet solidarity, a balm against the sting of Crane's derision. Suddenly, the tide of the crowd's energy drew a shift toward Violet. A stir heralded the approach of a crisply dressed man, embedded with purpose. His familiarity with the address system appeared as natural as breathing, and soon his uniformed figure cut a path toward Violet, standing amidst the bleachers' frenzied company. The man's searching gaze landed on Violet with well-placed accuracy, a seamless transition into proximity to her position. "Miss Brooks," he inquired courteously, addressing her by name, "I've come as a representative of Mr. Milligan. He's requested your presence in the players' pavilion." The soft-spoken delivery of the message caught Violet off guard. Milligan's name stirred her curiosity, its weight both familiar and distant, as if recalling a half-remembered melody. She glanced around, doubting the import of his request yet acutely aware of the sudden shift in perception from those nearby. Realization unfurled, moment-like ripples across a pond struck by sudden revelation. Jeremy Milligan was a name synonymous with golfing excellence, a champion known for his skill and integrity, his reputation as firm as the greens he consistently triumphed over. As whispers circulated quickly through the crowd, marking a shift in the unspoken hierarchy, Violet allowed the man to guide her through the maze of onlookers who watched her departure with renewed interest. Her passage through their ranks was adjoined by a gentle murmur of incredulity, their gazes following her journey from the fringes. As she approached the players' pavilion, the temporary resolve she had marshaled coalesced with growing anticipation. The upscale area was a striking panorama of opulence, its grandeur reserved for those who inhabited a realm she had been temporarily alienated from. Yet within the hallowed bounds of the golf world's inner sanctum, Jeremy Milligan's reception was one that distinguished Violet from mere spectatorship, his gentle sincerity an invitation she had never sought but now crossed into willingly. Stepping beyond the quietly apportioned threshold, a shift articulated itself over Violet's senses. The pavilion, serene and stately, offered respite from the notions that held her isolated amongst the crowd. Here was a chance to transcend insult and judgment, the door to possibilities that were parallel realities were within reach. Milligan stepped toward her, every movement exuding the quiet confidence that made him beloved in the sport. His voice was warm and genuine. "Violet Brooks, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. I've heard so much about your extraordinary work in course architecture." To Violet's surprise, his knowledge of her professional contributions signaled a complete turn from the degradation she had suffered earlier. Acceptance replaced contention, fostering a rebirth of assurance within her spirit. The discomfort she had worn like a cloak over her heart ebbed gently away. Their exchange lasted moments yet filled her with the graceful inclusion that shifted perceptions in duality. Milligan expressed gratitude for her role in redefining the very course they stood upon, its reformation aligned with innovations she had inspired, elements that rendered the championship play uniquely challenging. The revelation of Violet's contributions resonated through the pavilion, sending ripples of realization across the faces of those who had stood in silent or vocal judgment of her earlier. Whispers bred thoughtful reconsideration of preconceived notions, they humbled an audience jostled into genuine acknowledgement. Curiosity mingled with newfound respect as Violet's identity extended beyond the constraints of her attire or presumed social standing. Her minimalism contrasted starkly with the affluence surrounding her, yet the skill and vision she embodied left an indelible mark upon their perceptions. Standing there, Violet no longer shielded herself from the eyes of those who had witnessed her earlier humiliation. Here she found validation and respect blending into a powerful testament to her own worth. The juxtaposition of Violet's unassuming grace with the spectacle of indulgence around her underscored the burgeoning shift within the heart of the tournament. As Violet and Milligan's conversation drew to a close, the energy within the players' pavilion turned palpable, all eyes upon this elegant reconciliation between expectation and reality, an inner-size bridging divides born anew in recognition of her true identity. Against every spark of doubt, Violet stood poised beside Milligan, framed by a moment wholly her own, her dedication imprinted upon the tournament's heritage, a figure now honored within its legend rather than whispered dissent. As Violet stood in the players' pavilion, acknowledgement shimmering in the air like ripples on a pond, her presence drew in the room's gaze, an unexpected focal point at this esteemed gathering. Just moments ago, she had navigated the paths between less enthusiastic bystanders, but here she was, integrally woven into the tournament's very fabric due to her profound influence on its course architecture. Milligan's praise, spoken with genuine regard, resonated through the hallowed space, a testament to Violet's talent and vision. "We owe the unique challenges of today's play to you," he stated earnestly, his voice carrying respect born from their conversations. "The collaboration between tradition and innovation here is unlike anything else." Word of Violet's practical and imaginative contributions spread swiftly, its echo in stark contrast to the murmurs of disdain that had greeted her earlier. Conversations hushed as her role in shaping the course came to the fore, her once understated figure now drawn into vivid relief amidst a previously oblivious ensemble of spectators and players. Guests in their formal attires and lanyards adorned with influential titles could not mask their varied reactions. Many gasped, genuinely surprised by this revelation, while others whispered hurried apologies as they pieced together who Violet truly was. Gone were the dismissive glances, replaced now with a burgeoning appreciation for the woman who stood unwittingly at the tournament's crossroads. Nearby, Alexander Crane observed the unfolding scene with palpable incredulity. His earlier derision had been confidently publicized, yet now his expression was one of disbelief and faint humiliation, hidden beneath an otherwise calm facade. A part of him understood the turn of fate, its irony lost on neither him nor those within earshot of his previous insults. The ripple effect of Violet's unveiled identity led many attendees to reconsider their early judgments. Smartphones slipped into pockets as their owners retreated from capturing further scandal, adapting to the shift in atmosphere much as sailors veer with changing winds. The vilification that had momentarily tainted the day evaporated, replaced by a collective recognition. Violet Brooks was truly deserving of their admiration and respect. Violet stood poised, absorbing the energy now diffusing through the room. Although aware of the impact of her work on the tournament's operations, her choice of attire remained deliberate, practical, a reflection of priorities shaped by personal and professional ethos. Simplicity had long been her trusted companion, her minimalism a testament to the grounded values shaping her identity. As murmurs swirled in the room with renewed vigor, Violet maintained her composure, embodying the quiet dignity that had drawn Milligan's respect in the first place. Basking in the respectful acknowledgement of peers, she was acutely aware that the accolades and shifts in perception meant more than mere outward appearances. Substantial work and character had triumphed over superficial judgments. Milligan took the opportunity to introduce Violet formally to a circle of influential guests, including tournament sponsors and officials, his endorsement elevating her standing within their esteemed ranks. Each new introduction wove Violet deeper into the event's social fabric, solidifying her role not just as an architect of the sport but as an integral part of its continuing story. Throughout the exchanges, Violet revealed glimpses of her journey, her passion for golf's transformative landscapes and her commitment to creating dramatic yet respectful routes through the sport's natural grandeur. Her language merged technical precision with evocative imagery, stirring newfound excitement among the listeners. For those who had mocked her earlier, the contrast of Violet's authenticity with their snobbishness became stark. Their hasty assumptions disintegrated into the embarrassed realization that Violet's values and grace truly transcended the boundaries they had sought to impose. Her quiet strength inspired introspection and underscored the human capacity for growth and understanding. As Violet shook hands with individuals formerly beyond reach, the acknowledgement etched these moments indelibly into the tournament's heritage. The air, now charged with purpose and hitherto unseen camaraderie, met the quiet authority of a woman whose unassuming presence commanded attention, respect, and admiration. That day, amid the beauty and tumult of the championship course, the elite event transformed under Violet's subtle influence, a reminder of the harmonious interplay possible between diverse worlds. Nuanced shifts among the attendees reflected a deeper respect for individuals whose contributions are far more profound than outward appearances might suggest. As time took wing within the pavilion, the acknowledgement of Violet's true impact extended beyond the momentary spectacle. She cast her eyes toward the sweeping expanse of the grounds, a reminder of intertwined connections between progress and tradition, growth and sustainability. Within the folds of an already memorable event, her presence left a lasting imprint, breathing new life and awareness into the prestigious tournament. In those moments, Violet knew she had achieved more than mere integration. She embodied the narrative's evolution, a force for transformation that bridged the gap between perception and reality so that it echoed its values back to her community. Her journey illuminated that path, immortalized within the annals of a sport redefined by new possibilities, an emblem of quiet strength, resilience, and contribution beyond measure. The instant Violet stepped beyond the players' pavilion, the aura around the ground seemed to shift, mirroring the newfound respect that now surrounded her. Buzzing with energy, the crowd's attention flitted between the unfolding golf game and the woman whose genuine contributions had remapped not only the day's competition but also the landscape of their assumptions. As the tournament climaxed, with the final match drawing near, officials and players readied themselves for the closing chapter in an extraordinary spectacle. Yet amidst the anticipatory hum, the repercussions from Violet's unveiling continued to weave through the crowd like reverberations rippling beneath a placid lake. Not least affected was Alexander Crane, whose previous mockery had positioned him at the center of the day's controversy. Initially, Crane had basked, unchallenged, in the privileged strata above, yet with the day's revelations his standing had notably dipped among peers and onlookers alike. Whispers of disapproval and sharp glances followed him, a social climate shift as palpable as the sunburned grass underfoot. Standing among the ranks of those now cast into reconsideration, Crane found himself cornered on the periphery of the crowd. His typically confident demeanor saw itself tempered with shades of reflection, his oversight laid bare in real time amidst a community that had turned introspective. For Crane, the earlier arrogance served now as a point of poignant consideration. Later that day, as the steady stream of police golf carts skimmed quietly along a side path, Crane saw his opportunity to approach Violet, the intention for an overdue apology framed within his mind. His stride toward her bore none of the swagger that defined their earlier encounter, replaced now by an earnestness tinged with a notch of awkwardness. "Ms. Brooks," Crane began, breaking the gentle lull surrounding them in the shadows of the gallery, "I owe you an apology. It seems I was quick to judge, and I misjudged badly." Violet paused in her slow meander, the paraphernalia of celebration and ceremony bustling mildly around them. Her gaze met Crane's, and for a moment, she simply held his gaze, her expression an unreadable amalgamation of thought. "I misjudged you based on what I saw, rather than what truly is," Crane continued, words emerging with difficulty yet underscored by sincerity. "Your work has changed the tournament for the better, and for that, I owe you gratitude, and an apology." Violet assessed this transformation, the man who had once dismissed her now humbled by uncomplicated respect. She acknowledged his spoken amends with a composure that had marked their first meeting but which now carried her poised response. "Thank you for acknowledging it," she replied straightforwardly. "We all have much to learn, myself included. The lessons often come in life's quieter moments." Her gentle words were neither rebuking nor overly forgiving, instead embodying a realism that melded with the broader insight gained over the day. It was with this exchange that Crane, though left with words unspoken, felt the weight of his presumption give way to renewed understanding, a lesson carved within, invaluable. As Violet resumed her walk, vapor trails of influence surfaced in tandem across the gathered enclave. The direction of public interest shifted irreversibly toward an inclusivity that Violet's presence had broadly inspired, steering away from closed doors previously enduring in these privileged arenas. Outside the pavilion, the sun now began its descent on the horizon, the golden hues dappling the greens with a vivid glow that hinted at the journeys homeward to come. All around, the ebb of spectators making their way from the event impressed a different quality into the day, voices casting an evocative ode to the championship's success and the nuances of its quietly dramatic turn. Milligan's victory, underpinned by Violet's strategic design, imbued the event with both cohesion and climax. Each stroke, each sculpted challenge through course artistry cast a mutual respect across player and observer alike. And so, amid the whispers of wind mingling with leaves, it was Violet's subtle brilliance that left an imprint on the day, a heritage only deepened by her gracious presence. As the grounds thinned, Violet surveyed the horizon with a distinct realization. Her humble canvas toad in hand, she moved away from the hubbub that marked the event's close, her steps conveying not merely conclusion but a significant evolution, one recognized throughout the grand horizons she influenced, marked by contemplation amid reflection. Reaching the outskirts of the hallowed green, Violet took one last glance over her shoulder at the event that now stood irrevocably transformed. Spectators partook in a reverence that echoed the day's revelations, tempered with fresh awareness, their perceptions shaped against a backdrop of enduring tradition. As she left, the place felt forever shifted by her presence, bearing witness to perspectives altered and values renewed. Within that introspective silence, the world acknowledged not simply her contributions, but a prevailing influence, a signal of grace that could never quite be articulated fully in words alone. Violet Brooks walked forward, empowered by affirmation and growth, as those who observed silently honored this chapter of shared learning. The day ebbed into memory, enriched by the narrative of a woman who had enriched a game infused by myth and legend it had embraced anew. Here, beyond the glinting bends of the course, Violet Brooks became not merely a name upon the roster but a symbol of grounded majesty, hers a legacy that would inspire the tournament long after the sun set below the glistening horizon's vibrant line.